Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on into a live look-in at the new Magill Motorsports Compound. Pretty much purchased fresh off of last year. You all decided to go in on something special here, and what a way to kick it off and have a bunch of cars here, a couple new ones, a couple things that you guys are getting ready for, but we're really excited to get the season underway and take a look at what all you guys have built down here in Port View, Pennsylvania. So joining me here are Frank Magill, Tony Magill, and Abby Gindlesperger. Thanks for stopping on by. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hosting us. So a lot of changes here with the Magills. A lot of things have been going on, a lot of differences, and we're really excited about it. So I guess we'll start furthest away and work closest. So Frank Magill, what an interesting year for you last year. Talk us through everything with last season with you. It was a pretty big learning curve for you, and there was a lot of changes and a lot of different looks between that '05 car.
Yeah, we went from double dutying the hobby stock and the pro stock, and at the end of the year there we picked up a crate, started in on that. But we had a pretty good year in the hobby stocks. We got a couple wins throughout the season, ended up bringing home the championship. It was a tight battle for the win, but it was all worth it in the end, and we had a lot of fun and just went off and got a good amount of wins and went where we wanted to be with it and just kept on going.
So the interesting, you started again initially whenever we were talking, I think last season or off season last year going into the season, we pretty much had decided or were under the impression that the hobby stock wasn't even going to hit the track. It was really just going to be fully focused on the pro stock, maybe hit some of the big races, but really that it led into something completely different in a championship in the hobby stock division. So going from not expecting you to race full time to, oh, not only is he racing, he's competing for championship. So and really we didn't see you a whole lot in that pro stock. I mean, a good bit, but not as much as we had expected. So what was the reason behind that change from the initial start?
The pro stock, it needed some updates and some work to it for freshened up and just to be a better car and be competitive out there. So we went back. We ended up having a good start off of the year in the hobby stocks, and we decided just to stick with it and go for another championship, get that back-to-back two-time championship in there. So we went for it. It ended up working out in our favor.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think you had what 5-6 wins on the year last year,
something like that.
Yeah, so and that's always good. You know, it's like you didn't even face it. It didn't even phase you. The possible changes didn't even phase you. So you focus a little bit less on the pro stock, but then all of a sudden one day you show up with a red Rush late model out of nowhere, and kind of shocked everybody. So what was the decision to jump into the Rush late models for you?
So we decided we were looking at the price in between like the pro stocks and the late model, and in the end of the day, we figured we could get more, we could travel more with the late model with the Rush series and stuff. So we ended up going with that. And, I ran it a couple races at the end of the year, and I felt so comfortable in that car, and I'm so happy we got the late model over in pro stock. It's a big jump, but it's kind of hard to explain, but it's like a nice, like it's harder to drive, but it's easier at the same time because there's more technology to it. So
Yeah, I can understand that. And I think it was so cool. You bought that car from a gentleman in New York.
yeah,
Right?
Chris Fleming out of New York.
And you pretty much jumped in the car and you didn't even have to change a seat.
No, yeah, we were about the same size. He was telling us about the seat, and usually when we buy cars, we don't buy them for the seat. And he was like, I got this $2,000 14-inch seat, and I was like, oh, it's a 14-inch, you might fit that one. So we sat in it, and it fit me pretty good. So we ended up just hopping in it and went out there with what he was running, and it actually didn't feel bad for me.
So any wins in the pro stock last year? I don't think there was.
No,
Yeah,
no.
but what was really impressive was in the Rush late model, you picked up some sort of a victory there.
Yeah,
Why don't you go ahead?
Fire victory.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, it was actually it was pretty impressive for me. I went out there and I didn't really know much about him. We were still learning the car. We didn't really know much. We were just going off what people were telling us, and I was actually upset because I was trying to make the show for that race, but I broke something. We ended up not being able to make it. So then I was like, I'm not even going to run this non-qualifier race. Like, I don't want to be the fastest loser. And then I went out, and then everybody's like, you just got to go out there. Just go out there. And then I ended up going out there, and I brought home the win in it. But it felt really good. just to be able to get comfortable in a car.
Yeah, because it's that seat time.
Yeah.
You want that seat time, and yeah, you don't want to be the fastest loser. But I think it paid off for you because not only that, that was for a Rush. That was for a Rush Touring Series event.
Yeah.
I want to say it was night one of the Bill Hendren.
It was
It was the
first night at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we lost to Pittsburgh due to a hurricane. Go figure. But in that night, that before the races started, you had a belt problem, and you were having a problem finding a belt.
Yeah.
And somebody helped bail you out.
Yeah, so I forget what it was. Logan Robertson had a belt for me. He gave to me. Let me.
I ran around asking everywhere for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we broke it on the way out of the garage, loading into the trailer, and we were like, oh, like what are we gonna do? Like, I don't have one laying around. I went to Brockers and I asked Jerry if he had one. He had one that was close, but it was a little big. And we were gonna try it, but then we went to the track and just hoped somebody had one. Somebody ended up having one. We ended up running with it.
Yeah, you're in good company with Logan Robertson. I mean, kind of a big name now, running with the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. So, one of those good Southern guys that'll help anybody out, and you know, it just pretty much said, hey, you know, it'll pay back. It'll pay back sometime. So, really nice guy. So, I mean, because of that, you guys were able to run. And why I bring up Logan Robertson, he was one of the fastest ones of the weekend that weekend, but your lap times in that non-qualifier race were very impressive. They were right there mid-pack with the people in the feature event.
Yeah.
So your first couple times in a race car, in that race car in particular, your lap times are consistent with just about everybody in the field. So not much of a learning curve on your end.
Yeah, I felt really comfortable when I got in that car. So we're just gonna go off of that. We got some new suspension parts and some new updated stuff for this car. We're gonna go out there and see what we can do with it this year.
So suspension, that's one of the interesting conversation pieces with these Rush late models, because the drivers claim that is where a lot of ground could be made up when you're getting started or really trying to fine tune these machines. How much of a learning curve have you experienced in this off season trying to get this car ready for 2023?
So we really we're going into it. We didn't have any idea, but then I won that non-qualifier race and we got that Race Logic chassis school. So we went there over the a month ago or something. Yeah, we went there and we learned a little bit, and they explained to us about all the setups and stuff, and that actually helped us get to know what we needed to know about the car. So it's helping us. It's a big change going from a hobby stock and a pro stock to a coilover late model.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got a Rocket XR1 chassis. You have good equipment. How much has that played into influencing you to continue? So and what I mean by that is when you know you have good equipment, you know what you have, and it's competitive already. It just really comes down to driver. Does that give you a little boost of confidence?
Yeah, it does. It gives you that confidence that you can go out there and compete. You're not going to go out there and get lapped or be the slowest person out there just in the way of everybody else. You have that confidence you're going to be able to go out there and possibly be able to get a win, because they're so close and competitive these days. It's better to go out there and then feel like you could compete with all the big drivers versus going out there and just feeling like, oh, I'm in this old junk car that can't really get out of its own way.
Yeah, and not to dismiss those who have older equipment, because one of the guys in the division, Philip Ubeck, 2021 points champion, he's racing in chassis that are several years old, decades old, and still able to produce, good lap times, wins, and championships. So it's not impossible. I just feel like that there is ease of mind knowing what you've got is competitive and amongst the top of the class.
Yeah.
So. All right, so enough with Frank for a little bit. Well, I'm sure we'll get back to you here in a little bit, but let's go ahead and move on to the man sitting next to him, to his right, your younger brother, Tony Magill. Tony, thank you so much for being here. Hobby stock competitor last year, but you definitely got some looks in the Penn Ohio Pro Stock. So what was that transition like for you?
I actually felt more comfortable in the pro stock than I did in the hobby stock. It was middle of the week, they went out and they bought that crate car, and I said, well, can I drive the pro stock this weekend if you're taking the crate car for him? And they said, yeah. And we got in it, and I think the second night I was in it, I won a heat race. And it was more comfortable than the hobby stocks for me.
Okay. So why do you guys think that is? Because you mentioned that just a minute ago, Frank. Tony, you're mentioning to me now is the comfort level jumping from a hobby stock to literally any other car. It seems like. What is it that makes it more comfortable for
I
you?
think it was the bigger tires, and they actually stuck to the track more than the 8-inch tires on the hobby stocks.
Okay.
I think it's the way the rear end steers versus the hobby stock. The rear ends and the pro stocks and the late models steer more. They drive into the turns, but for you, you just kind of have to counter steer through.
Okay.
So-
All right. So you're more on the wheel in the hobby stock than you are in any other.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. So that's really interesting. So Tony, no feature wins for you last year, though. You guys were mixing it up in the point standings. You just mentioned a little bit ago, 2-time track champion, back to back. Tony, you were right there at the very end. It was between you two and Logan Catellis. You guys were having an epic battle throughout the course of the entire season. It comes down to the final night, and it's between you three for the track championship. It could have gone any way. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for you overall, but nonetheless, you got to be proud of your effort.
Yeah, we were working every night in the garage to make sure my car was there for the next week.
Did you have a
Yeah.
lot of problems, or?
No, I just like to do a lot of maintenance to it. I go over it, the whole car at least once a week.
Okay.
I mean, I have every nut and bolt off of it, and I make sure it's all tight.
That's good. I mean, and it's something that could easily get overlooked, you know.
Yeah.
And you hear about drivers who talk about the amount of time that they spend in the garage every single week trying to get their cars ready and prepared. What do you think on average you guys are looking at for nut and bolt checking? How many hours a week do you guys think you're putting in the garage to get a car on the track?
Well, we go through. We not bolt the cars. We do tires. It's just we get off of work. We come down here. We spend like 3-4 hours down here just making sure the cars are all prepared and ready for the next week. We probably like if I had to say what probably like, takes us 6 hours to do everything on the cars. But then if we have to like change something or anything else like that, then it takes longer to do that.
So you're talking, and that's if you don't wreck the car.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if you don't have any body work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That and that probably changes a lot with the hobby stocks. Do you guys feel like you were a little bit more not as concerned with the look of the car? Do you think maybe?
Nah, we didn't really care how
We
they looked.
never
We just
really care what they look
wanted
like
to make
as
sure they
long
were
as they're
fast.
fast.
Yeah, as long as they're fast. So we talked about the non-qualifier win for Frank, but you had a dash win yourself
Yeah.
during the Hobby Stock Invitational, the Josh Langer Hobby Stock Invitational. That was your first visit to a victory lane in a hobby stock. So what was that like to kind of finally get that monkey off your back? You've been winning. You've been so close to winning so many different times, and it all kind of fell into place for you that at least in that particular moment. You got to have a victory lane interview of some sort before heading into the feature event. So what was that like for you to finally have that accomplishment?
It was a big relief going because we were changing stuff on the car setup wise to try to find something that worked for me, and we finally found something that worked for me that night. And in the dash, me and Gary raced real close for a good while, and the last lap came around and he was right at my door, and I said I knew I had to get him off of 4.
So and play that back in your mind. Were you on the high side? Were you on the
I
low
was on the
side?
high side. He was right underneath me going into 1 and 2. He had me a little bit, but I had enough momentum coming around the top to get right around him, come down the back stretch.
Now, when you're headed into 3 and 4 for that final time, turn 3, you're more or less turning right into the wall a little bit before setting yourself into 3. Is that pretty much how that works over there in 3 and 4?
Yeah.
Where you're pretty much hit the toll box. So you're turning right into 3 to set the car to go through the turn. So what's that intimidation factor like? Is that intimidating knowing that you have to turn the wheel right to go left to?
Not really, because
No?
I got used to it over the years of racing.
Okay. All right. So at that point, though, the situation doesn't become apparent to you or doesn't factor into how you're approaching the final 2 turns. The situation you were pretty much ready that you didn't let that moment get to you.
Yep.
It was apparent because you were the one that was on the high end coming out of it. So, and by what I mean by that is you won the race.
Yeah.
So that's always good. So nonetheless, I believe you finished 3rd in points to cap off the 2022 season,
Yeah, believe so.
and you were top. You both were top 5 in the Cheplik series, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty solid season for the both of you. and we'll get back to where we're looking for 2023 for the both of you. Although I think it's pretty clear where you're going to go. We'll talk to this young lady right next to me, Abby Gindlesperger. Abby, you were a competitor last season in the Young Guns division. I think this was your second season this past year, right? No, this was your first year.
Yeah.
Look at me. How about I should know better. But I tell you what, the reason why it doesn't seem like it was your first year because you pull off 3 victories in your first season, and it was it didn't look like at any point, maybe that first week, like you were just kind of getting used to things, but you picked up to it very quick and you were very dominant at certain points through the season. How do you think your first year went for you?
Definitely started off a little rocky. I mean, I got lucky with having an amazing crew and people who dedicate a lot of time to helping me and getting that car ready. I mean, wrecked it first night, hot laps, hit the wall hard, wrecked that car, got back out there, and then I flipped, and that wasn't very fun. But then I started looking up from there, and being able to pull off 3 wins on my first season was really cool, and it was an incredible experience.
So talk to me about that flip. What week was that? That was early on in the year,
It was
right?
pretty early on, like 5 or 6. It was, yeah, me and Gavin both flipped that day.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Gavin totaled his car. Your car wasn't totaled though. I think it was just a rollover, right?
Yeah, I was able to get it back out there with some work.
Okay. You raced that night?
No, not that night. It took us, I think, 2 weeks. 2 weeks to get it back out there.
Okay. So does that play into your mind at all after rolling a car like that the next night out? Are you a little bit on edge, a little bit, is it a little bit different, or was it, nah, we're good. Just get back on the horse and ride.
I mean, it was a little nerve-wracking. I think I wanted to get back out there. I knew I was going to. I had to prove to myself and to everybody who didn't think I could do it that I was going to do it. And people tell me all the time, especially my family. I mean, they always say they were surprised that I was able to do it and get back out there, but it was amazing being able to do it.
Yeah. Now, before that flip, did you have a win yet, or?
I did not know.
Okay, so the flip, comes about 5 or 6 weeks in, and then those 3 wins come after that. So, which is impressive because you think about it, that's a month and a half of the season or so that's pretty much gone. So you eclipse that 3 wins pretty quickly, and that's really impressive. Did you feel yourself getting better through the year? You could see it on the track, the confidence was there, but did you feel that confidence as well?
Building up to it, it took a lot of time to feel comfortable and confident in the car. I mean, every time I still get in it, I still have all my little things I got to do to make me feel safe, and my dad straps me in real tight. But I mean, I got to thank it to them and Frank, of course. They were the ones who taught me everything I needed to know, and my uncles included. Like, they made sure I knew where I was supposed to do, what I was supposed to do, and where I was supposed to go. And definitely by the end of the season, I felt pretty confident in being competitive up there with the other racers.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing to that wreck too is at that point you're pretty much out of points contention. I mean, there's still a shot. It just gets a little bit harder. You really got to start racking up the wins and getting those top finishes and kind of unfortunately hope for misfortunes on other people's end, which you never want to hope for. But if it works out to your advantage, that's great. At that point, I think it's just a lot of just consistency, hitting your marks and getting some victories. And it seems like you accomplished quite that. So.
I tried, yeah, finding my line. It definitely took a lot of time, but I think I got that down. Excited to see what this year is going to bring.
So one of the things that Emmy Laboon spoke about in one of the interviews I had with her was you kind of just learn, basically a lot of the young gun competitors, they stick to that low side. You're kind of just learning, you're gaining seat time, you're learning how to drive, but that eventual place of, that you can get through the middle of the racetrack or through the high side of the racetrack and utilize all of the track rather than just the middle or low side. Did you get to a point in your season where you were finding that middle line, finding those faster lines, and maybe not drifting up out of the turns, more driving into the turns?
Yeah, I feel like I definitely at the beginning of the season, all of my serious wrecks came from me going too high in the turn. I just drifted up and hit the wall. I think I had 1 or 2 where I was just too low and spun out, but definitely being able to find a comfortable line and being able to work with the other racers, and you have to go around them if you have to overcome them. So you got to figure out what's going to work best for you.
So let's talk about all of your guys' where you're at currently in your lives. So I'm looking at a bunch of youth right now, which is absolutely makes me happy. I'm 30. I still like to think that I'm young, but I'm sitting by people who make me feel old. So Frank, you're 19.
Yep.
So you just graduated high school last year.
Yeah,
And what high school did you go to?
I'm Thomas Jefferson.
TJ.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and what did you, and you went to Vote Tech as well, right?
Yeah, I went to Steel Center for HVAC, and then I ended up once COVID hit, I went to online school and got a job doing HVAC at Jeff Sorek, and ended up working there throughout the rest of my year doing online school.
And Tony, you also do Vote Tech as well?
Yes.
You're still in high school. You're 16 years old?
17.
17. Okay. And TJ?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what do you go to Vote Tech for?
I go to Votech for welding.
Welding. Okay.
And then I do my schoolwork online. I go to work. And after like 11, I get to work.
Okay. So run through a normal day for me then.
So I go to Votech from 7:50 to 9:45-ish. And then I get to work at 11. I do construction work.
Do construction work. Okay.
Yeah, for Kimberly Contract.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty big outfit, right?
Yeah, he's races up Jonestown. He's got 3 cars up there.
Okay. All right. And then Abby, you are a junior. How old are you again?
I'm 16, but I'll be 17 by the time the season starts.
Okay. And you go to
Elizabeth Forward, yeah.
Elizabeth Forward. So TJ, Elizabeth Forward. So and what do you do besides? Do you just go to? Is your a normal school day, or do you go to Vote Tech, or how does your day look?
I don't. Well, right now I go to school in the morning and then usually work or extracurriculars after school for the most part.
What kind of extracurriculars are you into?
I'm involved very heavily in the musical. I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to be the student director this year, so it's coming up on big weeks this week. Our show's coming up, so.
Oh, so not only are you preparing a race car, you're preparing for a musical. So
Yes.
that's incredible. So speaking of the race car, any need to really make big improvements, or is it pretty much ready to go for opening night?
Not too many big things, little things, and then having some fun painting it is going to come up soon. So
Okay.
can't wait for that.
All right, so I mean, it's a pretty much a standard practice for a Magill machine have to have a 5 on it of some sort, a 5 or an 05, to be black or orange in some sort of capacity. So you're saying you're going to paint this? Is this going to be black and orange anymore? Or?
It'll be black and orange, but there will be some additions to it as well. Maybe add a little bit of my personal interest to it.
Okay.
They're not too happy about
No,
it.
I see that. They're a little worried. So,
They say pink doesn't belong on a race car.
oh, well, Tony White would disagree. His fluorescent pink 27, that thing stands out like a sore thumb.
That's
So,
what I'm saying.
so Abby's gonna add her personal touch. I can appreciate that. So that's exciting. We'll get a good reveal on opening night. Then you think?
Hope so.
All right, that sounds like a plan. So, and that's the amazing thing. As I would kind of go back to the youth side of things, what your average age between the 3 of you is like 17. Like that's absolutely incredible. And the 2 of you, competing for championships at a young age in a division other than Young Guns. Though I speak of the Young Guns, and you 2 are byproducts of the Young Gun division. You 2 had quite a successful Young Gun in Denver. So, what was that like for you? So you go from a Young Gun to a hobby stock to a pro stock to a late model. I mean, you guys are really climbing the ranks very fast. And do you think the Young Guns division prepared you for that appropriately, or how do you guys feel about it?
It gets you to learn the track and learn how to race and like how to be aware of like what all racing requires you to do and all kinds of stuff. But then once you really get up into them hobby stocks and into the rear wheel drive car, then it feels more like all the other cars because you got the rear wheel drive effect over the front wheel drive effect. It's just you really have to learn. It's a learning curve going from front wheel drive to rear wheel drive because you got to worry about the counter steer and all that stuff. So it's once you get the hobby stocks and get some rear wheel drive seat time under you, then it's pretty easy after that once you learn that curve.
Tony, what about you? How do you think about that transition?
It wasn't bad. It was just a little difficult to go from front wheel drive to rear wheel drive cars, but once you get it down, it's fairly easy.
Abby, you haven't experienced that yet. Maybe
No.
at some point, but we'll see. So
Hopefully.
okay, all right. I like the sounds of that. So as we sit in this garage that I just made mention of a little bit ago, the Magill Motorsports Compound.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's a heck of a name. There's quite a bit of legacy in this garage. Why don't you guys go ahead and explain that? Tony, let's go ahead and hear from you a little bit more. Talk to me a little bit more about this garage and the history behind this garage.
Well, we got this garage from Adam Kostelnik. He's a big asphalt fan. He helps us out a whole lot on the cars. He knows pretty much everything there is to know about an asphalt car, and That's a good bit about dirt cars. I think there's 20 championships out of this garage and the one next door to us, and there's a couple undefeated seasons out of this garage.
There's an undefeated car I'm looking at right
Yes,
next to
there
you
is an
guys.
undefeated car.
So it's really cool to have that ability to jump into a garage that has a good legacy behind it. It kind of adds to your program. Like it's something that was kind of built for you guys that you guys have the opportunity to now utilize. So you guys just moved into it last year. You guys have just really been getting your foot to the ground here and getting things, kind of the way you guys want it. How has that transition been for the off season? Not only getting your cars ready, but kind of preparing your garage and making plans for the future.
Well, now that we have this garage and we have the lifts and stuff, it makes it working on the cars a lot easier because you just put them up on the lift and you can work on them instead of jacking them up and stuff. So that helped us a lot with going faster, and then just more space so we could fit all of our stuff everywhere. It just makes it better for us.
Yeah. And Abby, you're not keeping your car here quite yet. You're keeping your car
No.
back home. Eventually it'll make its way over.
Maybe.
Will it be allowed to be in this garage with the pink all over? Are you guys going to be so gracious?
I think we'll have to leave that up to my dad on that.
Okay. Yeah. So talk to me about your dad a little bit. I imagine he's probably the one that helped get you guys into racing.
Yeah, well, we watched him race modifieds back in the day when we were kids. So I remember he had an all orange the E-mod,
Dirt.
throwing dirt E-mod, and I remember watching that up at Roaring Knob, and then he kind of got us into it. Started off when I was like 13. I told him there was Ella Anton was at school talking about how she had a 4-cylinder and she's racing, and I was like, you didn't tell me I could race at 13, and he was like, all right, fine, we'll go look for a car. We went and got McManus's car, and I raced that in the Young Guns and started out in that, and then progressed on.
Okay, so there's a few names there. So your dad, a racer at the Roaring Knob Speedway. Ironically, for those who don't know, this is actually a little bit of interesting tidbit of information. But you guys race at Pittsburgh, which is owned by the Mileys. The Mileys actually helped build Roaring Knob Speedway. Some people don't know that, and that's something that I just came privy to, I think last year. So it's kind of weird how there's like always somebody involved somewhere in racing. Like you mentioned, the Kostelnik's owning this garage before you, and here you are racing it. AJ Poljak, pro stock champion at Pittsburgh, raced that car at one point that's sitting behind us at Motordrome. So it's a very tight-knit community of people. So going back to getting started, so at 13, you decide, okay, Dad, hey, it's time to go, time to start racing. What was that like though, watching your dad race as a kid though? Was that fun to you guys? Did you guys just take an immediate interest to it?
Yeah, we took an immediate interest to it, and then this garage has always been in our lives. Like Adam's been racing out of here, so we've been down here since we were in strollers watching them work on the cars, and we've been around it. So it just, once we found out we were old enough to be able to drive, it was like we want our own race cars. We want to drive now. We don't want to watch. We want to drive. Like,
So you're a couple years behind Frank, Tony. So what was that like watching him get to start racing a little bit before you? And then did that help ultimately for you to make that transition, since he kind of broke ground for you? You kind of followed in the footsteps. You kind of learned from him in alternate ways rather. Did you feel that helped you watching your brother kind of get to race for a few years before you?
Yeah, it helped a whole lot. And then I started racing go-karts. We tried them. I think I raced them 6 or 7 times, and they weren't real fun to work on.
Okay. Where'd you guys race go-karts at?
Naugle, Blairsville, and a couple other tracks. There was one in Ohio.
Okay.
Like,
So there you go. So a little bit of go-kart racing before. So did you ever race go-karts, Frank?
no, I didn't. We ended up getting one, but then we got to the age it was like to get a 4-cylinder, we could stick to the go karts. We just went and got a 4-cylinder. So.
I understand. Now, Abby, you had a little bit of a different approach compared to these two. So what got you into racing? Was it the McGills?
It was, yeah, family friends, and then I just went one time and watched and fell in love with it, honestly.
So you went one time and watched. Roughly how old were you when that happened?
It was, I was 15. It was not last season since I raced. It was the season before that. And then I watched, and honestly, it started off as a joke to scare my mom. And then we made it happen. I mean, my uncle raced years for a long time, but I wasn't around for any of that.
What's your uncle's name?
Thomas Gindlesperger, TJ.
Okay. And where did he race at? Do you know?
I think Waterville and Ornell.
Okay. All right. So you convinced your mom to let you race. So did you go to the track more than just once before you started racing, or was it a one-time visit and
I
next
think
time you're
it
there?
was three times, and then the season ended, and then the next time I was there, I was in the car.
There you go. So that's pretty interesting. So how was that first week for your mom? Was she a mess? Did she even go, or how did that work?
Yeah, my parents have been at every race, and my mom gets terrified every time I get in the car. She has to make sure it's safe. She's a trauma nurse, so she has seen a lot, but she freaks out every time. All those accidents I had, we always video, so there's her screaming in the background every time I come close to somebody or hit, especially my flip. There's screams on that one for sure.
So do you think inevitably after one season finished, do you think your parents are happy with the decision to allow you to do this? Or is your mom still a little uneasy about it? Or how does it at home coming out from race nights and weeks during?
I mean, it's definitely not their favorite thing in the world. I'm not gonna lie about that. They're I have two other siblings who are all greatly involved in a lot of activities, so it's a big commitment, so it's not the easiest thing to do, but I'm so grateful for them. They dedicate a lot of time to helping me do it and really just make sure I can do it, believe in me.
So going back to high school, you were talking about what your extracurriculars are, and a lot of it is musical. Do you have anything else that you do in high school?
I'm in a lot of clubs, all sorts
Okay.
of clubs, and then I'm there a lot actually. I'm always staying after school for different sorts of clubs, but
What kind of clubs are you in?
I'm in a lot of I'm in SGA. It's called student government. Involved in a lot of organizations that do like a lot of volunteer work and help the community out. So
Okay. Habitat for Humanity or?
there's I'm in Tri-M. It's a music honor society right now. Like we're bringing music to Alzheimer's patients for that. Interact. There's that. We do like a lot of community work and like cleaning up the community and stuff like that. SGA. That's more like school localized, and we just help students as much as we can and stuff like that.
Now you have a dance studio as a sponsor in your car. Are you also part of a dance studio, or is that just a sponsor?
I'm not. No, that's my sister and my mom's dance studio.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, I go when they need me. I help sometimes, but it's not really my thing. I danced for a long time, but just never fell in love with it quite as much as they did.
What kind of dance did you do?
All of it: tap, ballet, jazz, musical theater.
So you changed your ballet shoes out for a helmet.
I did, yes.
Yeah. I think that was a. Do you think that was a good choice?
Definitely.
I think it was a good choice too. Nothing against ballet, but
Not my thing.
well, I can appreciate that and understand that. So, Tony, you're still in high school. Any extracurricular activity? Do you even have time?
No,
No. I mean, this is your extracurricular activity.
it's
Yeah.
like another full-time job.
Right. Because and that's what absolutely astounds me is you two have a very untraditional, I guess, high school in the sense that the way you guys are learning and educating, it seems like a lot of it is just work, and you do your schoolwork when you have time. And you're graduated now, so a lot of time has been afforded to you now. Now that high school is over, now you just fill it in with actual work. So, talk to me about what a traditional day is for you guys. I know you guys kind of already said what it is. You know, Tony, go to VOTEC, and then you go to work, and then you just do your schoolwork in the evening, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's what I mean by untraditional. A typical traditional high school student, you go at 7:30 and you're done at 3:30, then go to work or go do whatever you got to do. And you were the same way, Frank, right?
Yeah, I did. For my last I started working at this HVAC company over the summer when I was 14, and then after that, COVID hit, I went and started working full time with them, and then I just did all my school online. Just stuck with it, so I'm still there today.
Now, what makes me curious is the social factor. With that being an untraditional way of experiencing high school, did you have any social implications on how different that was for you? Did it even bother you that it wasn't exactly the same?
No, not really. I mean, it just went from, instead of hanging out with a bunch of kids all day, hanging out with mature adults, it kind of made me mature faster and just get ahead on life, I guess.
Okay, so you wouldn't change it for anything?
Nah.
No. And what about you, Tony? Are you happy with the way everything's looking for you in high school?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I admire the ability to work at such a young age, and continue, because it's just like a seamless transition into adulthood for you, instead of waiting until that 17 or 18 years old and then jumping into the workforce. You've already been bred into it for quite a few years. And it obviously it affords you the opportunity to do what you guys are doing with race cars, which is great. You know, you're not building up this huge amount of student debt to go to college and learn something, and you guys are just going straight into the trades and hitting the ground running. So I can definitely appreciate what you two are doing.
Yeah.
And that's not to discredit what you're doing, Abby, because you're taking that transitional, or that you're taking the traditional way of doing it. What do you think you're going into? You're in your junior year right now, right? So you still have some time to decide, but what are you thinking about after high school? Do you have any plans yet?
I would love to do something with criminal justice.
Okay. So you're going to take that college route.
I am, yeah.
Okay. Do you have any schools you're eyeing up?
Point Park, hopefully.
Okay.
They have a wonderful criminal justice program, so I'm gonna go there.
Close to home?
Stay close to the city, yeah.
There you go. So that'll be interesting. That'll be fun. Do you think you'll still make it to Pittsburgh, or?
I hope so. I mean, that's part of the reason for staying so close to the city. I mean, Point Park's even closer to the track than we are right now. So.
Yeah, you're right about that. I drive past it pretty much every time on my way to the track, so it is still pretty close. So that's really great. And the cool thing, I think Point Park has a pretty astounding musical department, theater department.
Yep, another reason for choosing it, just to do that. So on the side, because it's something else I love as well.
There you go. So if you had to pick one, just out of curiosity, between musical and racing, what would you go with?
That's definitely hard, but I think I got to go with racing on that.
Really?
Hopefully nobody from musicals sees this.
Oh, I think they're going to. You just got thrown under the bus real fast.
Sure, they're going to.
Oh no, both is such an incredible opportunity, and I have been able to make so many friends and so many close relationships through both. So, but I mean, just especially how they work with each other. Musical season starts right as race season ends. Musical ends literally the week before race season starts. So it worked out perfect for me, definitely.
Yeah. So talking about your friendships that you've built in racing, obviously, in multiple ways in the pits, but on the racetrack, a young gun division that's full of female competitors. More females than males. It seems like you guys have a pretty tight-knit bond, at least from what I can see. Maybe there's some rivalries and some, elbows being thrown here and there, but nonetheless, anytime I talk to the majority of the young gun competitors, you all have a pretty decent, healthy respect for one another for the most part. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We all just want to make sure everybody's safe and having fun. I'm definitely friends with a lot of the girls, Zoe and Sumara, especially. Like the three of us like to hang out with each other throughout the pits, and like when we win, we always make sure we go up and see the other person, congratulate them. Just having a respect for one another and being clean on the track and everything, just to make it more fun for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And taking that racing, because like that's one thing that's completely separate from school. You have your racing side, then you have your school side. Does any of that bleed into one another? Like, do you talk to your friends about racing? Do they come out and see you race, or is that pretty much a strict border between the two?
I've had one or two friends come out and come to racing, and then I have some people at school who ask me about it. My one tech ed teacher, he always asks me after every week how it was and everything. So.
So that's pretty cool. So after a win, you get to boast a little bit. Did you mention anything about flipping after your flip at school?
Oh, for sure. A lot of people knew about it. My sister posted it first, and everybody knew after that.
Oh, that's not nice to throw you under the bus like that.
It happens.
That's all right. Who can actually say that they flipped a race car? Have either of you two flipped a race car yet?
Close, but no.
Close, but no.
Close, but no.
What happened there?
He was closer.
I was close. I went up on the wall one time, but
You were going up right close.
Never flipped.
Oh, there you go.
And I drug I drug the edge of the roof down the wall one night.
Okay. All right. So close, but no cigar. And Abby said, hold my. Well, I can't say hold my beer. You're not old enough. So hold my non-alcoholic beverage, and I'll show you how it's done.
Just another thing for them to make fun of me for.
So, what's the future looking like for you then? Another year in the Young Guns?
Another year in the Young Guns, and we'll see what happens from there.
Okay. And while we're on that topic, Tony, what are your plans for 2023?
We're gonna race the pro stock at Lernerville and as much as we can at Pittsburgh and see where he wants to go if they want to travel with the crate car.
The opportunity jumping out of the hobby stock into the pro stock, you now afford yourself the opportunity to go elsewhere and to kind of spread your wings a little bit and expand your horizons, visit other racetracks underneath the Penn Ohio banner. A lot of the racetracks running the same rules package, so you have the ability to do that. So that's got to be exciting for you. Did you get to race last year at the Hobby Stock Hustle at Lernerville?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got a little bit of a taste of it. Now, now you're ready to go. You're try to accomplish what you can at the action track. Are you looking at a weekly sort of program at Lernerville?
We're gonna see how the first couple weeks go and go from there.
Okay, I can appreciate that. So that'll be exciting to see where you end up, when you end up there, and see what your transition's like. You had a couple of opportunities last year to run that, and it seemed like, again, not to be continuous or redundant, but pretty seamless transition for you.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to transfer from the hobby stock to the pro stock because all the technology, the rear end moves more on the bigger tires.
Gotcha. And then Frank, what are we looking for? You had some opportunities to possibly go down at the Battle of the Bay at the World Series.
We debated it. We tossed the idea around, but we decided since it's our first year in the car, we're just gonna go we're gonna go to Pittsburgh for the beginning of it and learn the car, see what we can figure out on that, and then we're gonna start working our way out to the bigger tracks, see where we can go from there.
Gotcha. And when you're getting into this Rush Late Model program, you talked about that racing school. Have there been any other competitors at the track by chance that you've gotten to talk to and gain some knowledge off of?
We talked to the Guns, and Paul Duratz has helped me a lot actually at the track. That's who he helped me like with my non-qualifier win. He was one of the main people that helped me. Jimmy Steffens, he helped me, and and I didn't know, we didn't have an idea what we were doing. They've been around it longer than we have, so they kind of had some sort of an idea what we needed to go and pointed us in the right direction, and we figured it out from there. And ended up picking up that non-qualifier win based off of their ideas and what they told us to change. So they helped us a lot.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. And you're naming some of the drivers that have stuck out. Duratz, the Guns. One of the names that got brought up prior to this interview that we're going to bring up now is Steve Pirates, who is a former, I believe, I think he's a hobby stock champion.
Hobby stock champion.
Yeah. So
there is a picture hanging of him up on the wall.
Okay. All right.
Over there.
So a little bit of an interesting transaction between the Magills and the Pirates family. What happened there this offseason?
So he wanted to get back into the hobby stocks, and then we needed more late model parts and stuff. He had a late model, we had a hobby stock, so we decided to trade. And only thing I kept my seat, he kept his seat. So everything else, all his late model stuff's ours, and all my hobby stock stuff's now his.
So that's pretty interesting. So you got a backup late model now, which is good. It's always good to have a backup. I think his was a Rocket, right?
Yeah, it's an older Rocket, but it's got a good motor, a good transmission. It still work. Still probably be competitive.
Sure, absolutely. He had it at the racetrack quite a few times last year. Did he tell you why he wanted to get back into the hobby stocks? Was there a particular reason?
He said he feels more comfortable in the hobby stocks than he did in the late models. He just felt like there was more for him to lose in the late model than there is in the hobby stock.
Okay, I can understand that. Yeah, and that certainly is a call for, not, I don't want to say a call for concern, but it is something you have to make note of as a racer. Is the hobby stock division, you're looking at a cheaper price point. You can get into the hobby stocks at a cheaper price point than obviously you can in the Rush late model. So you have to prepare for that on not just the equipment end but also on the repair end as well. To maintain and to properly run these things, it's going to cost a little bit more money. So I can understand why somebody in your position at the age of 18, you're looking to build up. Where Steve Pirates has been around for a while, he might be looking to go back to what he knows and be competitive. And as a former hobby stock champion, you got to think coming out of the gate, he's going to come out swinging, and he's got a good piece of equipment. That 05's won a couple of races at Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So
He's a good car. I miss that car, but I feel like he could do good in that car. I hope he does. I hope he pulls something out.
Yeah. So, and what interested me too, whenever you guys decided to go the route of selling both of your hobby stocks, and now that they're officially gone, there is no more crutch to laying back on. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just for you two, you know, you can get into a hobby stock, be competitive, and be at the front. And now that's kind of gone. You've ripped the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
And now it's okay, time to sink and swim with these
Yeah.
new racing endeavors. So I feel that's really exciting for the both of you.
Yeah, it is.
So Abby, I think inevitably, I think you would like to move up at some point. You kind of made mention of it and hinted at it. So what do you think? And what would your aspirations be for you if you wanted to continue in racing?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, hopefully moving up to a hobby stock one day, and it's even if I'm not racing, just being able to dedicate the time to still going and just supporting all the friends I've made along the way.
So if let's throw money out the door. Let's say money doesn't matter. If you had the choice of what you wanted to race, what would you race?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, right now, just a hobby stock.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I really enjoy watching the class. I know the people in it, like watching them do these last 2 years. I know the names, I know the numbers. I'm starting to learn faces, and I just feel like it'd be fun to race there.
So prior to you starting into racing, you won a couple times and then decided to race. Prior to all of that happening, were you familiar with dirt track racing or any sort of familiarity with racing at all?
Nope.
Okay.
Well,
So and that interests me because now you've had like one full season under your belt. Have you taken notice to anything happening on the national level, like with the World of Outlaws, Lucas Oil late models, anything like that?
I mean, I've definitely like hanging around them. I mean, I've watched a lot of races, and it's really cool. I mean, that would be a dream to be able to do that one day. Maybe not gonna get that far, but even just going to watch one of those races in person, I think would be an incredible experience.
Okay. So have you been to like Lernerville for a firecracker?
Yeah, I've been to Lernerville, went to Latrobe last year, and Pittsburgh. Those are really the only three I've been to.
Okay. So and do you watch it on TV at all? Do you like Flow Racing, Dark Vision, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been able to watch a lot of races, and my little cousin Maddox, he's always running around the pits. He loves to watch racing videos with me, so I'll pull him up and we'll just see who we know and what numbers we recognize.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So, and you two have been involved in racing for so long. So, I mean, you guys are very aware of the national level, drivers. So, I mean, have you been like teaching her a little bit about racing or is she kind of learning that stuff on her own?
Yeah, we try. We don't know. We're bigger into it than like they are. We when we go, we've been around it, so we know who the drivers are, like who we want to win and who to watch and all this. And then they're like, well, who you rooting for? We're
I
like,
just cheer.
Back-
They're cheering for most of the time.
There you go. So that's cool though, because like it's like a level of innocence, like of just learning what this sport is and learning more about it, and you're becoming so engrossed in it, engulfed in it, that you're growing such a love and appreciation for it. So it's really cool to see. The biggest thing with our sport is trying to continue to keep the youth involved and keep the youth invested, and you're one of the examples of that at its highest extent, because not only are you just interested in it, but you're doing it, and that's what stands out to me. So I can appreciate the efforts and the sacrifices that you're making to continue to do this and to continue to race.
Yeah, that's what's so great about the young guns. Like, I would never be able to just jump into like a hobby stock or something like that. So just getting familiar with everything in the young guns is really an amazing experience. When people tell me they're like I turned 16 2 days before my first ever time getting in a car. So people are like, oh, did you have to be 16? I'm like, no, there's people out on that track that are 13, way younger than me, and who like have been around it their whole lives.
Yeah. You talk about Zoe Knight being one of them. I mean,
For
she
sure.
the Knight family extends far and wide through racing in multiple different ways, and she's just another one that comes up through, and she's got that family backing. So, and that makes it tough for you, because here you are as a 16-year-old competitor, not really familiar with the whole dirt racing thing, and you've got families that have been around this for quite some time and a lot of experience with four-cylinder race cars, so they kind of know how to get things going. But luckily, you got the Magills here to help get you,
Sure.
ready and get you started. So, yeah. And he's not here to talk about them, but you talk about the young guns. We got a new young gun competitor coming through next year, but the car's right above our cameraman, actually.
yeah, we're building another 4-cylinder for our friend AJ Manganello. He's gonna come out and see what he can do this year in it.
So tell me a little bit about AJ. We can talk about him while he's not here. So tell me a little bit about AJ. Has he come from a racing background? What's he?
Yeah. He kind of like me and my brother here. We were like 10, 12, and he was like an infant in a stroller down here in the garage. And then started grew up watching us now, so we're like the next generation that he's watching. Like we were watching my dad and Adam, and then he's watching me and Tony out there racing. That's what's getting him into it. So it's kind of cool to see that.
So you talk about people that are looking up to you.
Yeah.
Talk about the people that you've looked up to. Who are some of the drivers that you both have looked up to into racing?
I looked up to Adam Kostelnik a lot. That's one of the main guys. Like that, he's always been a good. Like he's never led me in the wrong direction. He's always gave me good advice and kept me going on the right path. So it's one of the guys I really look up to. Him and AJ Pooljack. They're two guys that never led me in the wrong direction. So.
What about you, Tony?
Probably Adam and AJ.
Yeah. And what about on a national level, though? You talked about drivers that you root for that you want to win. Do you have any drivers on the national level that you look at and see how they race and try to learn some things off of, or just pure fandom?
I like Tyler Erb. Tyler Erb's my favorite driver in the super lates right now. I've been watching a lot of races, and I'm just the guy I root for.
What about you, Tony?
Probably Hudson O'Neal right now.
Yeah. I mean, you got two pretty big names right there. You talk about the Gateway Dirt Nationals with Tyler Erb's story, how everything happened with his father. Hudson, what an opportunity this year to be racing the Rocket House car, two of the most predominant names in dirt late model racing right now. Still young in your dirt knowledge, but however, what about you? Do you have any drivers on the national level that you look up to?
Not that I can really think of. I mean, it's kind of cool not only to watch them race. I like looking at the backstories of a lot of the drivers, so I think that's pretty cool. I look at a couple of them, but not too much.
Yep. And one of the things I wanted to ask about, and I probably already know this answer, but the number 5 and 05, where does that come from?
Adam Kostelnik, and actually that car right there, 05. And then, well, when we were kids, there was cars out there Adam owned, and they were on the asphalt track, but he put them in our name. Like one was mine, one was his, and the number on one of them was 05, the other one was 50, and we just kept the numbers. So I just like, I want my first number to be 05.
There you go. So, and you didn't really have a choice.
Nope.
05 is going to stay on that car. What about the car above our cameraman here? What's AJ's car going to be number?
That's gonna probably be number 50.
50.
Okay.
Yeah, that's gonna be the 50. Because that was his dad drove the 50 car out of the 05 and 50. They were like twin, green and white. Yeah.
Green and white. So is he going to don the green and white, or is he going to be orange and black? Or
I think he's going with orange and black.
A little bit of a betrayal. Have to be somewhat different than his dad, right?
Yeah.
Keep the same number, but it's got to mix things up a little bit. Well, that's really awesome, guys. I think we've had plenty of opportunity to talk about years past, years looking forward. The future seems bright for the three of you in many different ways. With you two, with Frank and Tony, it seems like it's racing. You guys are deeply vested in this. Abby, of course, you're getting to that point, but you got some other things on the horizon that you're really interested in, whether it's music and theater, criminal justice, and if you keep racing through all that, that's great. But if not, you've become a race fan through and through, and I think it's really cool to be able to sit down with you three so young. So you guys have such a passion for the sport, and it's really great to see. So really appreciate your time. Do you guys have any closing thoughts? Well, I guess the biggest thing is we didn't even talk about any of your sponsors, and that is a crime, and we need to talk about your sponsors. So you two pretty much, Frank and Tony, don the same sponsors. You guys have big ones. So so why don't you go ahead and take a second to thank the people who you need to thank, the sponsors and the crew.
Looking at me because I know. All right, so we have Jeff Sorks on the hood. We like to thank him. We like to thank my mom and dad. And my mom, A&F Engineering. We got Corman Corporation. We got Just Pour It, Clean Line,
Dan's Truck
Service, Hodge Garage, Team Nuts. Who else? And Greater Pit Tree Service. I think that might be it.
And then Abby, you have a couple different ones on your car.
I have some of the same as theirs, but I gotta say thank you and sorry to Team Nuts. Every time I win one, I forgot them. So Team Nuts, I gotta give a special shout out to them for Natasha. And then my dance studio, High Energy, and Rowan Works as well.
Rowan Works, okay. And then I think Jeff Sork's on your car too, and A&F Engineering.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so. And then we're excited to see what AJ has in store. What about crew? We haven't talked about your crew. You talked to your mom and dad, but
yeah, mom, dad. We have our tire guy Quentin. He's always helping us. Just Adam, AJ, pretty much anybody who shows up to track that helps us. it's hit and miss. Well, sometimes even
Sometimes
1,000
we have
people there,
victors,
sometimes
sometimes it's four or five.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes it's a plethora of people down there. Like I've walked through there. You always got dogs too. You got a couple
yeah,
dogs.
we have the beagles. Yeah, can't leave them at home.
I got a
Get in.
puppy, and then they said I couldn't leave him at home while we raced, so he started coming to the racetrack with us. And he got
Then
one.
we ended up getting 2. So
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're beagles.
yeah,
Yes.
blue tick beagle.
Blue
Blue
tick.
tick. I had a blue tick beagle. They were wonderful dogs. I currently have a coon hound, so same family,
Yeah,
same family.
We're
So
not racing, we're hunting with the dogs. So
so there are some time for other hobbies than
Yeah.
racing.
Yeah, we have busy
Yeah.
winter hobbies.
that's a busy winter hobby for us. My dad doesn't really like it. He'd rather us be working on the cars every second of the day. But he's like, yeah, I'll hunt with the dogs, have more fun that way.
There you
Wasn't
go.
bad until you started.
So what do you guys hunt? Pheasant, rabbit.
Pheasant, rabbits.
Deer, bear,
Yeah, we hunt everything.
snowshoe, rabbits,
Whatever's out there.
pretty much anything.
You hunt too?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So you're right there with them then, hunting with the dogs.
I love those dogs.
Yeah. and what about fishing? Any fishing then?
Yeah, we do a lot of fishing. Like trout season's coming up, we're gonna go out for trout season and
There you go.
see what we can do.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. So, any good hunting stories? Any good fishing stories?
I shot my first coyote this year. Well,
Yeah.
with the dogs actually. Dogs started running it, and then finally turned around and started.
It wasn't dogs, it was my dog.
His dog, and then it started turning around and chased his dog back to him, and we ended up shooting it.
Wow. Wow, that's some man. So, I mean, were you scared? Dog didn't get bit by
The
nothing?
dog
No.
was perfectly fine.
Dog
He
was
came back
fine.
to me and he was running around. He was looking for somebody else to get see to make sure he was all right.
Wow, that's something.
Yeah.
That's something.
We didn't know we had to make sure it was a coyote before we started shooting at it.
Sure.
It looks like a dog. Like first coyote I've ever been close to in person, and then I've always wanted to kill one, and finally I got it this year.
While we're on the subject of stories, any other good racing stories that come from the three of you? Anything that kind of stands out? Something you can laugh about now? Anything like that? I'm a sucker for good racing stories. So.
No, just if you want to watch good action, you just gotta watch our pits. My dad get into it. My dad get into it. It's something
I've got grabbed.
Yeah,
I'm already gone 2 times this year.
yeah.
It's a very strong love-hate relationship sometimes.
Yeah, I got slammed on the car the other year,
But,
last year, and the hood pin went flying out.
well, it's all in love, right?
Yeah.
It's all in love. So.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hey, you'll have that. Yeah, you gotta have your differences, but at the end, though, the opposite minds, will lead to a successful endeavor. So if you have opposing views, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's about getting to you guys have the same goal. You guys all want to find victory lane, and that's what you guys race to do. You guys don't necessarily race for championships. You guys race for wins. You guys have made that very clear.
Yeah.
But it's good to have that kind of back and forth because it creates that spark for winning.
Yeah.
It's not just if it was just all easy breezy, happy go lucky, it's harder to be competitive in that sort of atmosphere. So, all right. Well, I've taken up plenty of your time. We would definitely appreciate it here. Thank you so much for allowing us to come to the Magill Motorsports Compound here in Port View. A lot of history in this garage, and it's really cool to see. But we appreciate your time, and we look forward to 2023 for each and every single one of you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Magill Motorsports Complex down here in Port View, Pennsylvania. A brand new garage for the Magill racing family, and let's go ahead and christen it with a little bit of a look around and see the history that is involved in this beautiful shop down here. So we'll start with you, Frank. You got your Rush late model here. Why don't you go ahead and we'll take a walk around where we can.
This is my section, and then we have all kinds of roofs hanging up from Adam Kostelnik and all his old body panels and stuff that are really just pieces to the puzzle down here, I guess.
The 05, what do you got on the inside of that 05 in there?
I decided to put a Reaper in it this year.
Okay.
So it's like, this is his eye, that's his other eye, and that's the mouth. If you
Okay.
can see that.
So that looks pretty cool there. A Reaper on the inside of the 05. What inspired that?
I don't know. We made a Magill Racing logo and we put a Reaper in it because everybody uses a Skull. So we decided to go different. We put a Reaper in it, and then I took that and put it in the back of my number. Yeah, it's a lot more room, and now that we have the lift, it's so much easier. Like getting under the car, you just jack it up. You don't have to lay under it on the ground. You have to roll creep around anything. You just raise it up, walk under it, work on it, do what you have to do, and then lower it back down when you're done.
Looking pretty fast this year, Frank, coming off of that non-qualifier win last year. It's been a pretty fun transition to watch you race, so we'll see what you have in store this year. So what about the moving into a shop like this, the history of it, knowing that one of your childhood idols, Adam Kostelnik, really got it going for you guys and pretty much allowed you to move into this thing. So what led to that decision from Kostelnik to get you guys in here?
He told us that his goal is to be sitting at the races watching and us be the ones driving and having all the stress on us. So that's where he's going with it. He's kind of just stepping back and letting us take over.
There you go. So why don't you go ahead? There's a car behind us here, and our cameraman can pick that up there. This is a former Motordrome car, probably ran a little bit of Jennerstown. So why don't you go ahead and talk to us about this machine?
This is the 05 car, Adam Kostelnik's. It's an AK chassis. The paint scheme was yellow and orange from Adam's buddy Dink, and this is one of the cars that has it has an undefeated season on it. It has a lot of wins on it. It has 80 some wins on it, 89 or 90 wins on it, and it's just a very popular car from the asphalt generation back then.
So that undefeated season, who was behind the wheel for that one?
AJ Poljak.
AJ Poljak, look at that. Champion of Pittsburgh, champion all over Western Pennsylvania. So this car's got a lot of history, a lot of speed. Any plans for this car coming up?
Well, Adam told us that anytime me and my brother would want to run it, we could run it. So we might put it together, and then one of the weeks we're off of Pittsburgh, we might take it out and see if how we could do it on the asphalt.
So what kind of car is this considered? Is this considered a stock or?
Street stock.
Street. Yeah. Okay, so street stock. And fortunate to still have Jennerstown still around. If you want to go asphalt racing, you still have the opportunity to do that. And this chassis has been around for a while.
Yeah, it's an older chassis, but it's still competitive. With today's technology, it can still compete. Actually, a couple years ago, I seen Poljak go out and win with it, so it still has it in it.
There you go. Poljak can make a heck of a motor. I mean, he's provided a lot of your power plants over the years, and you guys are still running them when you can. Now, I guess it's a little bit different. He can still make a pro stock engine, but these Rush late models, they're kind of sealed tight, and not much you can do to them.
Yeah, they got to be all Rush sealed up, so we don't really have any engine builders on this one. But when on the pro stocks and the hobby stocks, Poljak built us some pretty good racing engines. I can't complain. Them things have been, I know how much I've beat on them things, and they've taken it and loved every second of it. So.
Well, there you go. So we got a car behind our cameraman here, and we'll switch over to Tony Magill, because, Tony, this is going to be the car that you pilot here. Good look at the rear end here, old metric tube back end. So talk to us about this Penn Ohio Pro Stock. What kind of car is this?
Well, it's an S&S chassis. It's an older one. I think it's number 13 or something like that. And we got a new motor from Poljak to put in it, and we sent it out to Noah Bernal to get it updated. He put a new body on it and changed some stuff around. He said he's going to make it competitive for this year.
There you go. Yeah, so an S&S chassis, number 13, that is an older chassis. I think Christian Schneider has number 11 that he's currently working on. So you're right. You can still see the metric frame underneath, and we're very familiar with that with the hobby stocks, but not so familiar anymore with the pro stock. So do you think that chassis has had any sort of helped with that transition into this division at all, like knowing that the chassis is relatively the same, though a completely different car, or is that really a non-factor in all of this?
It's really a non-factor in all of this.
So, why you guys are excited. So this transition into this garage for you, what has that been like?
It really hasn't changed. I've transitioned from our big garage at the house to the little garage, and then I got down into here, and I can actually have my car in the same place as my brother's.
Yeah, you guys, I remember being in your garage last season. You guys had both hobby stocks right next to each other, and that was pretty much it. That's all the more room that you had. Now you have plenty of room to move around in here, so that's got to be a huge benefit.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge benefit. I can put stuff over in another bay and work on two cars at one time.
So we'll stick with you, and we'll transition to the other car in the shop. We've talked about 3. There's a 4th one, and it's been above our cameraman pretty much all day today, and still holding strong so that we know that the lift's good. But why don't you go ahead and talk to us about this Young Gun car?
Yeah, that's a Young Guns car we're building for my cousin, AJ Manganello. He's going to drive it this year.
And it looks like a Dodge Neon, which is pretty rare because a lot of the times you see these Young Gun cars, typically they're Chevy Cavaliers, and I think we only had one Dodge Neon last year, and it looks like we might have another one in the group. So whenever you ran Young Guns, what kind of cars did you run?
I had a Chevy Cavalier.
Yeah, so pretty traditional. So how much fun is it? Kind of, I feel like, in my opinion, it would be kind of like going back through a time machine a little bit, in the sense that you grew up and got started in racing, being around the shop. You yourself getting into racing, you had to help build up a car, and you're putting the chassis in the car, and here you are, years later, you're doing it again. So is it kind of fun to revisit what the past used to be for you?
It just makes me realize how much easier and more I know about the metric frame cars than them 4-cylinders.
I can understand that. So given the opportunity, would you ever race a 4-cylinder car again, or are you pretty much shied away from those?
I'm shied away from them. I like my rear-wheel drive cars, and I like the Pro Stocks especially.
Okay. So given the opportunity to move around, so if you got the opportunity to run a Rush Late model, would you, or are you really happy with these Pro Stocks and focused on that for now?
I'm going to focus on the Pro Stock this year. Maybe next year we might get another Rush Late model, and hopefully I do good in that. We'll see.
Well, there you go. So we'll bring the patriarch into this a little bit. He's looking at me like he really doesn't want to talk. But Frank, do you want to talk at all? I don't care. Okay. So for you, it's a little bit different because I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit because we've talked to your kids now, and you are the one who got them started into this whole thing. So how much fun has it been for you to watch your kids up and come up through and make this transition into racing, going from a kid watching their dad to being the one watching their kids?
Well, it's been real good. I love every minute of it. I'm proud of them most of the time. Sometimes I want to, choke them, but that's really the way it is. You got to be tough with them. You got to teach them, show them, and be patient with them, even though they do wear my patience thin.
So what's that transition been like for you, though? So going from the guy behind the wheel to now going to the guy coaching, instructing, and helping, has that been fun? Has that been, you've already mentioned stressful, but what's that been like for you?
Oh, it's been a blast. I love every minute of it. We spend all the time together that we have working on the race cars, our free time, and just it's a great time. It's a great family bonding experience.
Did you have an opportunity growing up through to be in this garage with Adam? Have you been here before you guys moved in, or how did that all work for you?
Yes, we brought cars down here, worked on them. Adam helped us. Originally, Schlesinger owned a garage. It was from Dave, and Dave helped me out a long time ago throughout the years, and just it's always been a part of me. So whenever we were looking for a garage, Adam says, "I'm racing out of Dale's garage. Why don't you? We'll talk about this garage here, and why don't you start racing out of here?" So that's what we did.
That's really cool to know that you've been brought up here. You've had so many years of experience here. Then to jump into it, that's really cool. And then also, obviously, too, your kids being able to afford those same opportunities as you had, and I'm sure that they appreciate it. At least it seems like through talking to them that they definitely appreciate it. And who knows? I think quite a few more championships are bound out of this garage. What do you think?
Yeah, that's what we're planning on. We're not building cars to not go out and win. That's our goal. It's always been our goal, is win, win, win. Championships fall where they fall.
So I see where they get it from. And talk to me about your wife, Kelly. How long have you guys been together? Has she been into this racing thing since you got started, or did she kind of marry into it, or?
Well, I'm glad you put me on the spot for that, but we've been together for since high school. And then her family, she comes from a racing family too. Well, we won't call it a racing family. They drag race. Oh. So not really a racing family, but about motorsports. But yeah, so she's always been a part of it, and we're just glad I have her and glad she supports us. So, that's what more can you ask for?
Not much more than that. It's always good to have a good, strong racing mom be there for it, and just to have that family togetherness that you just spoke of. It's definitely very apparent whenever I speak to your kids, to yourself. You guys are invested in this wholeheartedly, and you guys love this. And I think it's great that you guys have a place to have a race shop, and one with so much history. So congratulations on this new, I guess, acquisition, new place to call home in terms of racing. And we look forward to what the rest of Magill Racing has in store for 2023 and beyond. So I think that's going to do it here. So a nice little live look into this garage. It's been fun. I thank the Magill family enough for coming down and allowing us to be here and to see all of it, because to know that there's such a rich racing history in this shop is really cool. So for all of you watching at home, thanks for your time. We definitely appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you at Pittsburgh's Pennsylvania Motor Speedway for 2023.